The explosions were getting closer. Jake Morrison ran through the ruins with his medical kit bouncing against his back. Dust filled the air and made it hard to breathe. His squad had been ordered to fall back, but Jake had gotten separated during the chaos. The planet Vistara Prime was supposed to be an easy patrol mission. Now it was a war zone. The Vraken swarm had attacked without warning, and Jake's unit was caught in the middle of it. He could hear the screaming sounds of the insect-like aliens somewhere behind him. Jake ducked behind a broken stone wall. His heart was pounding. He needed to find his way back to the evacuation point before the Vraken found him. He checked his compass and was about to move when he heard something. A soft groan came from deeper in the ruins. Every instinct told him to keep running. His training said to get to safety, but Jake was a medic and someone was hurt. He couldn't just leave them. He moved quietly toward the sound, his rifle ready. What he found made him stop and stare. A woman lay among the rubble, but she wasn't human. Her skin glowed with a soft silver light even in the shadows. She wore armor that looked like it was made from crystal and metal mixed together. Blood that shimmered like liquid mercury leaked from wounds on her side and leg. Jake approached carefully. The woman's eyes opened, and they were the color of violet fire. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. Her hand moved toward a weapon, but she was too injured to reach it. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jake said softly. He held up his hands to show he meant no harm. "I'm a medic. Let me help you." The woman stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slightly and her hand fell back down. Jake moved quickly to her side and opened his medical kit. The wounds were bad, very bad. He could see the black veins spreading from the injuries. Poison. The Vraken used bioweapons that killed slowly and painfully. Jake had never treated an alien before. He didn't even know what species she was, but blood was blood and poison was poison. He had to try. He pulled out his scanner and ran it over her body. The readings were strange, but he could see where the poison was spreading. "This is going to hurt," Jake warned. He pulled out an injector filled with broad-spectrum antitoxin. It was designed for humans, but it was the best chance he had. He pressed it against her neck and triggered it. The woman gasped and her body went rigid. For a terrible moment, Jake thought he had killed her. Then she took a deep breath and her eyes focused on him again. The black veins stopped spreading, though they didn't disappear. "Thank you," she whispered in perfect English. Her voice was beautiful like music. "My name is Liara." "Jake," he replied as he worked on her other wounds. "Just stay still. You've lost a lot of blood." He used synthetic skin to seal the worst of her injuries. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, doing what he had done 100 times before. Save the life in front of him. Worry about everything else later. "You are human," Liara said. It wasn't a question. "Yeah," Jake confirmed. He finished sealing her leg wound and sat back. "And you're not Vraken, so that makes us friends as far as I'm concerned." Liara almost smiled. "I'm a Shirian, from the 7 Kingdoms." She tried to sit up but gasped in pain. "Easy," Jake said, helping her lean against a broken pillar. "You're stable, but barely. We need to get you somewhere safe." An explosion shook the ground. Dust rained down from above. The fighting was getting closer again. Jake looked around quickly. "They couldn't stay here. Can you walk?" he asked. Liara tried to stand, but her leg gave out. Jake caught her before she fell. She was lighter than he expected, but still solid. He could feel the warmth of her skin through her damaged armor. "I will try," she said, determination in her voice. "Good enough," Jake said. He put her arm around his shoulders and took most of her weight. "There's a cave system north of here. I saw it on the maps. We can hide there until this battle moves on." They moved slowly through the ruins. Every step seemed to take forever. Jake kept watching for Vraken patrols, but luck was with them. The aliens were focused on the main battle elsewhere. The sound of gunfire echoed across the dead city. Liara stumbled several times. Each time Jake caught her and kept them moving. He didn't complain about her weight or the danger. This was what he did. This was who he was. The cave entrance was hidden behind fallen rocks. Jake had to set Liara down carefully to move some of the stones out of the way. His muscles burned with effort, but he made an opening large enough for them to squeeze through. Inside, the cave was dark and cool. Jake pulled out a light stick and cracked it. Soft green light filled the space. The cave went back about 20 feet and was dry. It would work. He helped Liara to the back of the cave and made her as comfortable as he could with his emergency blanket. Then he went back to the entrance and arranged rocks to hide the opening from outside. When he was done, they were sealed in together. "Why did you help me?" Liara asked from the darkness. "You could have escaped." Jake came back and sat down near her. He pulled out a water bottle and offered it to her. She took it gratefully and drank. "Because you needed help," Jake said simply. "That's reason enough." Liara looked at him for a long time. The light stick made shadows dance across her silver face. Most beings would not risk their lives for a stranger, especially not for an alien. Jake shrugged. "Most beings aren't human, I guess. We're stubborn that way." He checked his scanner again. Her vital signs were improving. The antitoxin was working. "Besides, I took an oath. Do no harm, help those who need it. Doesn't matter what species they are." "You are unusual," Liara said softly. "I've been called worse," Jake replied with a tired smile. Outside, the battle raged on. Explosions lit up the cracks around the rocks Jake had piled at the entrance. But inside the cave it was quiet. Jake set up a small heater and gave Liara some of his rations. She ate slowly, watching him with those strange violet eyes. "What were you doing out here?" Jake asked. "This planet is in the middle of a war zone." Liara was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "I was on a diplomatic mission. My ship was ambushed. My guards died protecting me." Her voice cracked slightly. "I am all that remains." Jake felt a pang of sympathy. He had lost squad mates before. He knew that pain. "I'm sorry," he said, and he meant it. "What about you?" Liara asked. "Why are you here?" Jake leaned back against the cave wall. "My unit was running patrol. We walked into the Vraken attack. Everything went to hell pretty fast." He looked at his hands. They were stained with her blood. "I was just trying to get back to my people when I found you." "And you stayed," Liara said. "You risked everything for me." "Yeah, well," Jake said, feeling embarrassed. "Like I said, it's what I do." Liara reached out and touched his hand. Her skin was warm and soft. "Then you are a rare being, Jake Morrison. In all my years, I have met few with such courage." Jake looked at her. Really looked at her for the first time. She was beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with being human or alien. There was something in her eyes, something ancient and sad and strong all at once. "How old are you?" he asked, then immediately felt stupid for asking. But Liara just smiled. "Old enough to know that tonight I met someone special." She squeezed his hand gently. "Thank you for my life, Jake Morrison. I will not forget this." Outside, the sounds of battle began to fade. Night was falling on Vistara Prime. And in the cave, two beings from different worlds sat together in the darkness, connected by a moment of compassion that would change everything. The night stretched on in the cave. Jake kept checking Liara's wounds every hour. The poison was still in her system, but it was no longer spreading. That was good. She would live. Liara slept for a few hours while Jake kept watch at the cave entrance. He moved some rocks aside to create a small gap he could see through. The ruins outside were dark and quiet now. The battle had moved to another part of the planet. They were safe for the moment. When Liara woke up, she looked better. Some color had returned to her silver skin. She sat up slowly and looked around the cave. "How long was I asleep?" she asked. "About 3 hours," Jake replied. He came back from the entrance and sat down across from her. "How do you feel?" "Weak," Liara admitted, "but alive. Thanks to you." She looked down at her bandaged wounds. "Your medicine is working. I can feel the poison leaving my body." Jake felt relieved. He had been worried the antitoxin wouldn't work on her alien biology. "Good, you need rest and fluids. I have more water and some food if you're hungry." They shared a meal of military rations. Liara made a face at the taste which made Jake laugh. It was the first time he had laughed in days. "These are terrible," Liara said, but she ate anyway. "Yeah, the military isn't known for good food," Jake agreed, "but it keeps you alive." After they ate, Liara looked at Jake seriously. "I need to tell you the truth about who I am. You deserve to know." She took a deep breath. "I'm not just a Shirian. I am Queen Liara, ruler of the 7 kingdoms. I rule over billions of beings across dozens of worlds." Jake stared at her. "You're a queen? An actual queen?" "Yes," Liara said. She watched his face carefully as if expecting him to react badly, but Jake just nodded slowly. "Well, I guess that explains the fancy armor." He smiled a little. "I've never saved a queen before." "That's a first." Liara looked surprised. "You are not afraid? Not angry that I did not tell you immediately?" "Why would I be angry?" Jake asked. "Queen or not, you were dying." That's all that mattered. He leaned back against the cave wall. Though I have to ask, what's a queen doing on a battlefield without guards? Liar's expression turned sad. I was coming here to meet with your human commanders. I wanted to discuss an alliance between your people and mine. The Vraken are a threat to both our civilizations. She closed her eyes. My advisors told me it was too dangerous. I should have listened. Your guards, Jake said gently. The ones who died. Were they close to you? Yes, Liara whispered. Some had served my family for centuries. They gave their lives so I could escape. A tear ran down her silver cheek, and I failed them. I got poisoned and nearly died in these ruins. Jake moved closer to her. You didn't fail them. They died doing their duty, protecting someone they believed in. And you survived. You're still alive to make their sacrifice mean something. He put a hand on her shoulder. That's what matters. Liara looked up at him. Her violet eyes were bright with tears. How can you be so kind? You are just a soldier. You could have left me and saved yourself. No one would have blamed you. I'm not just a soldier, Jake said quietly. I'm a medic. And before that, I was just a farm kid from Earth who wanted to help people. He smiled sadly. My dad used to say that how you treat someone when no one is watching, that's who you really are. I guess that stuck with me. Liara reached up and touched his face. Her hand was gentle and warm. Your father raised a good son. They sat in silence for a while. The small heater hummed between them, pushing back the cold of the cave. Outside, the wind whistled through the ruins. Tell me about Earth, Liara said finally. What is it like? Jake's face lit up. Earth, it's beautiful. I grew up in the mountains in a place called Colorado. We had a farm there. Fresh air, clear water, more stars than you could count at night. He stared at nothing, remembering. I used to sit on the porch and watch the sun set over the peaks. Everything would turn gold and purple. It was peaceful. Why did you leave? Liara asked. Jake sighed. I wanted adventure. I wanted to see other worlds, meet other people. The farm was quiet and safe, but I felt like I was supposed to do something more. He laughed bitterly. Be careful what you wish for, right? I got my adventure. I've seen things I wish I could forget. War changes people, Liara said softly. I have seen it for centuries. Good people forced to do terrible things. She moved closer to him. But it does not have to destroy who you are inside. You are still that farm boy who wanted to help people. I can see it. Sometimes I'm not sure, Jake admitted. I've seen so much death, so much suffering. Some days I wonder if I'm making any difference at all. You saved my life, Liara said firmly. You made a difference to me. That is not nothing, Jake Morrison. Jake looked at her, really looked at her. She was alien, yes. Silver skin and violet eyes and a glow that came from within. But she was also just a person. Someone who hurt and cried and hoped, just like him. What about you? Jake asked. What's it like being a queen? Liara smiled sadly. Lonely. I am surrounded by people every day, but most of them see only the crown, not the person wearing it. They fear me or want something from me. Real friendship is rare. She looked down at her hands. I have ruled for over 800 years. I have seen empires rise and fall. But I have never felt truly seen until tonight. Jake's eyes widened. 800 years? You're 800 years old? 847 to be exact, Liara said. My people live for 1,000 years or more. We age slowly. She looked at Jake with sadness. You are what? 25? 30 years old? 28, Jake confirmed. Then you will live perhaps another 60 or 70 years if you are lucky, Liara said, while I will live for centuries more. She touched his hand. Do you understand what I am saying? Jake understood. The weight of it hit him hard. Any connection they formed here would be temporary. Brief as a candle flame in the dark. She would live on long after he was dust. Yeah, he said quietly. I get it. They sat in heavy silence. The impossibility of their situation pressed down on them. Two people from different worlds, different lifespans, different destinies, connected by chance and a moment of compassion, but separated by everything else. I wish things were different, Liara said finally. I wish we had met under other circumstances. I wish... She stopped, unable to finish. Jake squeezed her hand. I know. Me too. Liara moved closer to him. They sat shoulder to shoulder in the dim light of the cave. Outside, the stars were coming out. Jake could see them through the gap in the rocks. Tell me more about your mountains, Liara said. Tell me about the sunset, so Jake talked. He told her about the pine trees and the snow-capped peaks. He told her about the smell of rain on dry earth and the sound of wind through the valley. He told her about sitting with his father on the porch, drinking coffee and watching the world wake up. Liara listened to every word. Then she told him about her world, Silvaris. She described crystal cities that floated in the sky, gardens full of flowers that sang in the wind, libraries containing the knowledge of 100 civilizations. She painted pictures with her words, and Jake could almost see it. As the night wore on, they moved closer together. Not because they were cold, though the cave was chilly, but because they were two lonely people who had found something unexpected in the darkness. Jake, Liara said softly, I know this cannot last. I know that tomorrow or the next day my people will find me. I will have to return to my duties. She looked at him with those impossible eyes. But tonight we are just two beings who found each other. Can we pretend just for tonight that nothing else matters? Jake knew it was a bad idea. He knew he was falling for someone he could never have. Someone who lived in a different world, literally and figuratively. But he also knew that some moments were too precious to waste on worrying about tomorrow. Yes, he said simply. Liara smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. It transformed her face, made her look younger despite her centuries. She leaned in and kissed him. Her lips were warm and soft. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative. Then it deepened, became something more. Jake pulled her close, careful of her injuries. She fit against him perfectly, as if they were made for this moment. They held each other in the darkness of the cave, two souls connecting across the vast distance of space and circumstance. Tomorrow would bring reality back. Tomorrow they would have to face the truth of their impossible situation. But tonight, they had each other. And for now, that was enough. Dawn came too quickly. Jake woke to the sound of ships overhead. He moved to the cave entrance carefully and looked out through the gap in the rocks. The sky was full of vessels unlike any human ships he had ever seen. They were beautiful, made of some kind of crystal material that caught the light. My people, Liara said from behind him. She had woken up and was standing now, leaning against the cave wall.
They have found me. Jake's heart sank.
He had known this moment would come, but he wasn't ready. He would never be ready. Liara came to stand beside him. She looked up at the ships with a mixture of relief and sadness. I must go. My empire needs me. But Jake, she turned to face him. Come with me, please. I can give you a life beyond anything you have known. Medical facilities where you could save thousands. A place where you would be honored and respected. Jake wanted to say yes. He wanted it so badly it hurt. But he looked down at his dirty uniform and his beat-up medical kit. He thought about her crystal cities and her royal court. He would be a curiosity there, a human pet of the queen. An interesting story, but always an outsider. I can't, he said, the words tearing at his throat. Liara, you're a queen. You rule over billions. I'm just a medic from a farm in Colorado. I don't belong in your world. You belong with me, Liara said fiercely. I do not care about your status or your species. You saved my life. You saw me, the real me, not the crown. That is worth more than all the noble blood in the galaxy. Jake took her hands in his. And that's exactly why I can't come. If I go with you now, I'll always wonder if I'm just hiding behind your power. I need to figure out who I am first. What I want from life. He touched her face gently. I've seen too much death in this war. I need to find peace before I can be with anyone. Tears ran down Liara's silver cheeks. So this is goodbye? For now, Jake said, though he didn't really believe they would meet again. You have an empire to run. I have to find myself. Maybe someday. He didn't finish. They both knew someday was a lie. A kind thing to say to make parting easier. A beam of light shot down from one of the ships. It was a transport beam. Liara's people had locked onto her signal. In moments they would take her away. I will never forget you, Liara said. She kissed him one last time, pouring all her feeling into it. Thank you, Jake Morrison, for everything. Be safe, Jake whispered. Rule well. The transport beam enveloped her. She glowed brighter than ever in its light. Then she was gone, pulled up into the sky and away from him forever. Jake stood in the cave entrance for a long time, watching the ships disappear into space. His chest felt hollow. He had done the right thing. He knew that. But it didn't make it hurt any less. 3 days later, Jake made it back to his unit. They had thought he was dead. He told them he had been hiding from the Fraken and got lost in the ruins. No one questioned it. They were just glad he was alive. A month after that, Jake requested discharge from the military. He couldn't do it anymore. Every battle reminded him of Vistara Prime. Every person he saved made him think of Liara. He needed to get away. They let him go. He had served his time and more. Jake Morrison left the military and disappeared into the vast expanse of human space. 5 years passed. On Silverus, Queen Liara sat on her throne and ruled her empire. She made treaties and commanded fleets. She settled disputes and guided her people. But part of her was always somewhere else, in a cave on a dead planet with a human medic who had shown her what it meant to be truly seen. She sent agents to find Jake, quietly, without drawing attention. She told them to search military records, civilian databases, anywhere a human named Jake Morrison might appear. But he had vanished completely. No employment records, no travel logs, nothing. Liara began to fear he was dead. Humans were so fragile, their lives so short. Perhaps he had died in another battle, or in some accident she would never know about. The thought haunted her. Her advisors noticed her distraction. They brought her suitors from noble families. Strong warriors and wise scholars, all suitable matches for a queen. She refused them all. How could she explain that she had given her heart to a human who saved her life? They would never understand, Your Majesty, her chief advisor said one day. You must think about succession. You need an heir. The kingdom needs stability. The kingdom has stability, Liara said coldly. I am not so weak that I need a consort to rule properly. The advisor bowed and left. But Liara knew he was right. She couldn't mourn a lost love forever. She had responsibilities, duties. The weight of the crown pressed down on her every day. Still, she kept searching. She told herself it was foolish, that Jake had probably moved on with his life. Maybe he was married now to some human woman. Maybe he had forgotten all about their night in the cave. But she couldn't stop hoping. Then, in the 5th year, one of her agents brought news. There had been a plague outbreak on a frontier colony called Haven's Edge. A civilian medic had saved the entire settlement using techniques that were unusual for standard human medicine. The methods matched old records from the Vistara Prime incident. Liara's heart raced as she read the report. It had to be him. It had to be Jake. Where is this colony? She demanded. On the far edge of human space, Your Majesty, the agent replied. It is a rough place. Mostly miners and farmers. Very primitive. Liara stood up from her throne. Her decision was made in an instant. Prepare my personal scout ship. Tell no one where I am going. Your Majesty, the agent protested. You cannot go alone to such a place. It is dangerous. At least take guards. No, Liara said firmly. If I arrive with guards and ceremony, he will think I am there as a queen making demands. I need to go to him as just Liara, the woman he saved 5 years ago. Her advisors tried to argue, but Liara was beyond listening. For 5 years she had ruled with wisdom and patience. For 5 years she had put her people first. Now she needed this for herself. She changed out of her royal robes and put on simple clothes. She looked at herself in the mirror. Without the crown and jewelry, she was just an Assyrian woman. That was what she wanted. The flight to Haven's Edge took 3 days. Liara barely slept. She kept imagining the reunion. Would Jake be happy to see her? Or would he have moved on? What if he was angry that she had searched for him? When her ship landed at the small spaceport, Liara's hands were shaking. She had faced armies without fear. She had negotiated with enemy empires without blinking. But walking down that landing ramp onto the dusty ground of Haven's Edge was the hardest thing she had ever done. The colony was exactly as the report described. Small buildings made of prefab materials, dirt streets, hard-working people going about their business. It was the opposite of Silvaris's crystal beauty, but there was something honest about it. Something real. Liara asked around for the medical clinic. People stared at her silver skin, but no one was hostile. They pointed her to a building on the edge of town. Her heart pounded harder with every step. The clinic was small but clean. Through the window, she could see someone inside treating a patient, a man with dark hair and tired eyes. He wore simple clothes and had a medical kit open on the table. It was him. It was Jake. Liara stood outside for a long moment. She had crossed half the galaxy to find him. But now that she was here, she was terrified. What if he didn't want her? What if she had built this up in her mind and he had moved on? She took a deep breath and opened the door. The bell above the door chimed. Jake looked up from his patient. His eyes met hers, and for a second, time stopped. The medical tool fell from his hand and clattered on the floor. His face went pale. He stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. "Hello, Jake," Liara said softly. Her voice shook despite her best efforts to sound calm. Jake's patient looked between them, confused. "Doc, you okay?" But Jake didn't answer. He was still staring at Liara. 1,000 emotions crossed his face. Shock, disbelief, joy, fear, all mixed together. "I need a minute," Jake said to his patient without taking his eyes off Liara. "Can you come back in an hour?" The patient left, still looking confused. The door closed behind them. Jake and Liara were alone in the small clinic. "You're real," Jake said finally. His voice was rough, like he was fighting tears. "You're actually here." "I am here," Liara confirmed. She took a step toward him. "I have been searching for you for 5 years, Jake Morrison. You are very hard to find." "I didn't want to be found," Jake said, but he didn't move away from her. "I needed to disappear, to figure things out." "And have you?" Liara asked. "Figured things out?" Jake looked around the small clinic, at the medical supplies and the examination table, at the dusty window showing the frontier colony outside. "I thought I had. I thought I could forget, build a new life." He finally met her eyes again. "But I was wrong. I've thought about you every single day for 5 years. Liara's heart soared. She crossed the distance between them in 2 steps and threw her arms around him. Jake held her tight, burying his face in her shoulder. "I thought you were dead," Liara whispered. "I thought I would never see you again." "I'm sorry," Jake said. "I'm so sorry. I was scared and stupid and I ran." They held each other in the middle of that small clinic on the edge of nowhere. 5 years of loneliness and longing poured out between them. When they finally pulled apart, both had tears on their faces. "We have much to talk about," Liara said. "Yeah," Jake agreed. "We do." Outside, the sun was setting on Haven's edge. But inside the clinic, 2 beings who had been searching for each other had finally found their way home. They sat in the clinic after dark talking for hours. Jake made tea on a small heater, and they shared it like they had shared rations in that cave 5 years ago. But this time was different. There was so much unsaid between them, so much pain and regret. "Why did you run?" Liara asked finally. It was the question that had haunted her for 5 years. "Was it something I did? Something I said?" Jake shook his head. "No, God, no. It was me, Liara, all me." He set down his teacup and looked at his hands. "That night in the cave, I felt something I had never felt before. It was perfect and terrifying at the same time. And then when your ships came and you asked me to go with you..." He stopped, struggling with the words. "You said you needed to find yourself," Liara said quietly. "I remember. That was partly true," Jake admitted. "But the bigger truth? I was scared. Scared that I wasn't good enough for you. Scared that I would go to your world and be some curiosity. The human pet that the Queen kept around. Scared that I would watch myself age while you stayed young forever." He finally looked at her. "I was a coward, Liara. I ran because I was afraid." Liara reached across the small table and took his hand. "You were not a coward. You were honest about your fears. That takes courage, too." She squeezed his hand. "But Jake, did you really think I would treat you as a pet? Did you know me so little?" "I didn't know what to think," Jake said. "Everything happened so fast. One day I was a soldier on patrol. The next I was in a cave with a queen from another world. It felt like a dream, and I was afraid to wake up." He turned his hand over so their palms touched. "So I ran. And I've regretted it every day since." "And where did you go?" Liara asked. "My agents could not find any trace of you." Jake smiled slightly. "I learned some tricks from a smuggler I met. How to move around without leaving records. I worked on cargo ships, fixed equipment on stations, did medical work for colonies that didn't ask too many questions." He gestured at the clinic around them. "Eventually I ended up here. Haven's Edge needed a doctor and I needed a place to stop running. And you saved them," Liara said. "The plague that would have killed them all. You stopped it. Word got around, huh?" Jake said. "Yeah, I did. It was a modified strain of something I had seen before. The standard treatments wouldn't work, so I had to improvise. Mix human medicine with some techniques I learned from studying Ashirian biology." Liara's eyes widened. "You studied Ashirian biology?" Jake looked embarrassed. I might have spent 5 years researching everything I could find about your people. Medical texts, cultural studies, anything I could access. He rubbed the back of his neck. I told myself it was for my work, so I could treat alien patients better. But really I was trying to understand you, to stay connected somehow. Liara felt tears burning in her eyes again. Jake Morrison, you are the most frustrating man I have ever met. But she was smiling through the tears. You spent 5 years researching my people while I spent 5 years searching for you. We are both fools. Yeah, Jake agreed. We really are. They laughed together and it felt good. The tension that had been between them since Liara walked through the door began to ease. So what now? Jake asked. You found me. You came all this way. What were you hoping would happen? Liara took a deep breath. Honestly, I do not know. Part of me hoped you would see me and realize you made a mistake, that you would come back to Silvaris with me and we could have the life I imagined. She looked down at their joined hands, but another part of me feared you had moved on. That you would have a wife and children and a life that did not include me. No wife, Jake said. No children. Just me in this clinic and patients who need help. He met her eyes. I couldn't move on, Liara. I tried. I really did. But you were always there in the back of my mind. The woman I met in a cave who changed everything. Before Liara could respond, alarms started blaring outside. Red lights flashed through the clinic window. Jake jumped up and grabbed the emergency radio from the wall. This is Morrison. What's happening? A panicked voice came through. Doc, we've got raiders coming in. 3 ships just entered atmosphere. Everyone needs to get to the shelters now. Jake cursed and started grabbing supplies. Raiders hit the colony every few months. They steal our shipments and sometimes people. He looked at Liara. You need to get to your ship and take off now. But Liara was already moving. Her hands went to her sides and suddenly she was holding 2 weapons that had appeared from somewhere. They looked like they were made of pure light. I am not leaving you, she said firmly, and I am not hiding. The gentle woman from moments ago was gone. In her place stood a warrior queen with 800 years of combat experience. Where do they usually attack from? Jake stared at her for a second, then his training kicked in. The main storage facility. They go for the supplies first. He grabbed his medical kit and a rifle from a locked cabinet. But Liara, you don't have to... Jake, Liara interrupted. I am queen of the 7 kingdoms. I have commanded armies and fought in battles you cannot imagine. Trust me, I can handle a few raiders. They ran through the streets together. Colonists were rushing to shelters, parents carrying children. The local militia was gathering near the storage facility with whatever weapons they had. It wasn't much against raiders with military-grade equipment. The leader of the militia, a woman named Kate, looked relieved when she saw Jake. Then she did a double take at Liara. Doc, who's your friend? Kate asked. Someone who can help, Jake said. Trust me. The raider ships landed in a cloud of dust. Armed men and women poured out, at least 30 of them. They wore mismatched armor and carried weapons that looked expensive and deadly. This wasn't their first raid. Hand over your supplies and no one gets hurt, the raider leader shouted. He was a big man with scars on his face. We know you just got a shipment. Make this easy. We can't give you the supplies, Kate shouted back. We need them to survive the winter. The raider leader shrugged. Not my problem, he raised his weapon. Last chance. That was when Liara stepped forward. She walked calmly toward the raiders with her light weapons at her sides. The glow from her silver skin intensified, making her look like she was made of starlight. You should leave, Liara said. Her voice was calm but carried across the distance. Take your ships and go. There is nothing for you here, the raiders laughed. What are you supposed to be? One of them called. Some kind of alien? I am Queen Liara of the Assyrian Empire, she said, and her voice was like thunder now. Ruler of the 7 kingdoms, commander of the Crystal Fleet. And if you do not leave immediately, you will learn why my people have survived for 10,000 years. The laughter stopped. Some of the raiders actually took a step back. The leader's face went pale. The Assyrian Empire? That's just a story. A legend. Do I look like a legend? Liara asked. Her weapons began to glow brighter. The raider leader made a decision. A bad one. He opened fire. Liara moved faster than Jake's eyes could follow. 1 second she was standing still. The next she was among the raiders like a dancer. Her light weapons cut through their guns like paper. She didn't kill anyone, just disarmed them with surgical precision. Within 30 seconds, half the raiders were on the ground, their weapons destroyed, nursing burns and bruises. The rest tried to run back to their ships. But Liara raised one hand and pure energy shot from her palm. It hit the nearest ship and disabled its engines. The other ships tried to take off, but she brought them down too. The raiders surrendered. They threw down what weapons they had left and put their hands up. The whole fight had lasted less than 2 minutes. Jake and the militia could only stare. Kate's mouth was hanging open. "I suggest you leave on foot," Liara told the raiders calmly. "The nearest settlement is 20 miles that way. Walk. Consider yourselves lucky I am in a good mood." The raiders didn't need to be told twice. They ran into the desert and disappeared. Liara walked back to Jake as if nothing had happened. The glow faded from her skin. Her weapons vanished back to wherever they came from. She looked perfectly calm. "That was amazing," Kate breathed. "Who are you really?" "She told you," Jake said, finding his voice. "She's a queen." He looked at Liara with new eyes. He had known she was royalty, but seeing her like this in action made it real in a way it hadn't been before. The colonists gathered around, asking questions and thanking Liara. She was gracious and kind to all of them, but her eyes kept finding Jake in the crowd. Later, after everything had calmed down and the colonists had returned to their homes, Jake and Liara walked back to the clinic together. The night was cool and the stars were bright overhead. "You were incredible," Jake said. "I knew you were strong, but that was something else." "I have had centuries to practice," Liara said. "But I admit it felt good to do something other than sit on a throne and make decisions." She stopped walking and turned to face him.
Jake, I need to tell you something.
"About Ashirian medicine and human lifespans." Jake's heart began to race. "What about them?" "I have been researching just as you have," Liara said. "For 5 years I had my best scientists studying human biology, and they found something." She took his hands in hers. "There is a treatment. A way to extend human lifespans to match ours. Not everyone can survive it, but for someone with your medical knowledge and your compatible biology, the chances are very good." Jake felt like the ground had shifted under his feet. "You mean I could live as long as you? Centuries?" "Yes," Liara said. "If you want to. It would take time, and it is not easy. But it is possible." She looked into his eyes. "I am not asking you to decide now. But I wanted you to know, the barrier between us, the thing you feared most, it does not have to be permanent." Jake's mind was racing. Everything he had assumed, everything he had run from, it might not have been necessary. They could have a real future together, not just a brief human lifetime. "Why didn't you lead with that?" Jake asked. Liara smiled. "Because I needed to know if you wanted me for me, not because I could offer you a longer life. I needed to know your feelings were real." She cupped his face in her hands. "They are real, are they not?" "Yes," Jake said. "God, yes. I love you, Liara. I think I've loved you since that night in the cave. I was just too scared to admit it." "And I love you," Liara said. "I have loved you for 5 years. I will love you for 500 more if you will have me." Jake pulled her close and kissed her. This kiss was different from the one in the cave. That one had been desperate and sad, full of goodbye. This one was full of promise and hope, full of hello. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. "I'll go with you," Jake said. "To Silvaris. But I have conditions." "Name them," Liara said. "I want to keep helping people. Not just Ashirians, but humans too. Anyone who needs it." Jake looked back at the colony. "These people need doctors. Colonies like this all over space need help. I want to do something about that." Liara nodded. "We will build medical facilities. Train doctors. Create a program that brings help to those who need it most." She smiled. "With you to lead it." "Partners, then," Jake said. "Equal partners. Not a queen and her consort, but 2 people working together." "Partners," Liara agreed. She kissed him again. "Always." Above them, the stars shone down on Haven's edge. 2 beings from different worlds had found each other twice now, and this time they would not let go. The journey to Silvaris took a week on Liara's scout ship. Jake spent most of that time staring out the window at the strange beauty of space. He had traveled between worlds before as a soldier, but this was different. He was going to a new home, a new life. The thought was both exciting and terrifying. Liara spent the journey preparing him for what he would face. "My court will not understand at first," she explained as they sat in the ship's common area. "Some will see you as beneath me. Others will think I am making a political mistake. You must be strong, Jake. Show them the man I see. And who is that? Jake asked. Liara smiled. A healer who risked everything for a stranger. A man with courage and compassion in equal measure. Someone who sees me as Liara, not just as a queen. She took his hand. That is who you are. That is why I love you. When Silveris finally came into view, Jake's breath caught in his throat. The planet looked like it was made of light. Crystal structures rose from the surface, catching the sun and throwing rainbows across the atmosphere. Cities floated in the sky, connected by bridges that seemed too delicate to hold anything. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. Welcome to my home, Liara said softly. Our home now. They landed in the royal district and Liara's advisors were waiting. They looked relieved to see their queen, but their expressions became uncertain when Jake stepped off the ship behind her. Your Majesty, the chief advisor said. He was an older Ashirian with gold markings on his silver skin. We were worried when you left without guard or ceremony. And this is Jake Morrison, Liara said firmly. The man who saved my life 5 years ago. The man I have been searching for. And the man I have chosen to stand beside me. She looked at each advisor in turn. He is to be treated with respect and courtesy. Is that understood? The advisors bowed, but Jake could see the doubt in their eyes. He didn't blame them. From their perspective, their queen had run off and come back with some random human. They were probably wondering if she had lost her mind. Liara showed Jake to quarters in the palace. They were bigger than his entire clinic back on Haven's Edge. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that changed color with the light. The bed was huge and covered in fabric softer than anything Jake had ever felt. This is too much, Jake said, looking around. I don't need all this. You are with the queen, Liara said. This is normal for someone in your position. She saw his discomfort and softened. But if you want something simpler, we can arrange that. I want you to be comfortable, Jake. Over the next few days, Jake was introduced to palace life. It was overwhelming. There were servants who wanted to dress him and prepare his meals. There were protocols for how to walk and talk and even sit. There were endless meetings where nobles came to stare at the human who had captured their queen's heart. Jake hated it. He felt like an animal in a zoo. People whispered when he walked by. They treated him with surface politeness, but he could see the judgment underneath. He was an outsider here, just as he had feared, but Liara noticed his struggle. One morning she found him on a balcony overlooking the city, looking miserable. You want to leave, she said quietly. It wasn't a question. Jake sighed. I want to be with you. But this... He gestured at the palace around them. This isn't me, Liara. I'm not meant for court politics and fancy parties. I'm a doctor. I need to be doing something useful. Liara was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. So let us put you to work. She called for her chief medical advisor, an Ashirian named Torin. Torin arrived quickly. He looked at Jake with obvious skepticism. Your Majesty, how can I help? Jake is a skilled healer, Liara said. I want him to work with your team, share human medical knowledge with them, and I want him to help me create something new. She turned to Jake. Those medical facilities you wanted to build, the program to help frontier colonies. Let us begin that work now. Jake felt hope stir in his chest. You mean it? I always mean what I say, Liara said. You are not here to be a decoration, Jake. You are here to use your gifts, to make a difference. Working with Torin and the Ashirian medical team changed everything for Jake. At first they were doubtful. What could a human with less than 30 years of life teach beings who had studied medicine for centuries? But Jake showed them. He demonstrated human medical techniques that the Ashirians had never considered. He explained how to treat patients with limited resources, something that was useful even for advanced medicine. He shared battlefield medicine that could save lives in minutes. Most importantly, he taught them about adaptability. Humans, Jake explained, had to be creative because they didn't have advanced technology or long lifespans. They had to make do with what they had and think fast. That mindset was valuable. Torin slowly became less skeptical and more impressed. You think differently than we do, he admitted one day. We Ashirians have our methods that we have perfected over centuries. But sometimes that makes us rigid. You humans are flexible, inventive. He actually smiled. Perhaps there is something we can learn from each other. Jake and Torin began working on the colony medical program together. They designed mobile medical units that could travel to frontier worlds. They created training programs that combined human and Ashirian techniques. They recruited volunteers from both species who wanted to help. Word of their work spread. Jake started to hear different whispers in the halls. Instead of the human pet, people called him the healer or the bridge builder. Nobles who had dismissed him began to seek him out for advice. He was becoming someone in his own right, not just the Queen's partner. But not everyone was happy. Some nobles saw Jake as a threat. They worried that Liara's focus on helping lesser worlds would drain resources from the Empire. They especially hated that a human had such influence over their queen. The opposition was led by a noble named Kale. He was from one of the oldest families and believed strongly in Ashirian superiority. One day he confronted Jake in one of the palace gardens. "You do not belong here, human," Kale said coldly. "You have bewitched our queen somehow, but it will not last. She will see sense eventually and send you back to your primitive world." Jake met his eyes calmly. "I'm not here because I bewitched anyone. I'm here because Liara chose me and I chose her. If you have a problem with that, take it up with her." "The queen is clouded by emotion," Kale continued, "but the rest of us see clearly. You are weak. Your kind lives for a handful of years and dies. How can you possibly be a suitable partner for someone who will live for centuries?" "Maybe that's exactly why I'm suitable," Jake said. "Because I know my time is limited, I don't waste it. I make every moment count. Can you say the same?" Kale's face twisted with anger. Before Jake realized what was happening, the Ashirian had pulled a blade. It was a ceremonial weapon, but deadly sharp. "Perhaps if you were gone, the queen would come to her senses," Kyle hissed. He lunged at Jake. But Jake had been a soldier. His body reacted before his mind caught up. He dodged to the side, grabbed Kale's wrist, and twisted. The blade clattered to the ground. In seconds, Jake had Kale on his knees with his arm locked behind his back. "I don't want to hurt you," Jake said, breathing hard, "but I will defend myself. Stand down." Guards came running at the commotion. They pulled Kyle away and held him. The noble was shouting about human aggression and demanding justice. Liara arrived moments later, summoned by the disturbance. She took in the scene with cold fury in her eyes. "You drew a weapon against my chosen partner in my own palace," she said to Kale. Her voice was deadly quiet. "Give me one reason why I should not have you exiled for this." "Your Majesty, please," Kale begged. His arrogance was gone, replaced by fear. "I was only thinking of the good of the Empire. This human is not worthy of you." "Not worthy?" Liara's voice rose. "This human saved my life when I was dying. This human has created medical programs that will save millions of lives across our empire and beyond. This human just showed mercy to someone who tried to kill him." She stepped closer to Kale. "Tell me, noble Kale, what have you done for the Empire lately?" Kale had no answer. Liara made her judgment. "You are stripped of your position at court. You will return to your family estates and stay there. If I see you in the capital again without permission, you will face worse consequences." The guards took Kyle away. Liara turned to Jake, her expression shifting from cold anger to warm concern. "Are you hurt?" she asked, checking him over. "I'm fine," Jake said. He wasn't very good with that knife. He tried to joke, but his hands were shaking. The reality of what had happened was setting in. Liara pulled him into her arms. "I am sorry. I should have protected you better." "You can't protect me from everything," Jake said, "and I don't want you to. I knew there would be people who didn't accept us. But Liara, I'm not giving up. Not on you, not on this." He pulled back to look at her. "I want to do that treatment. The one that will extend my life. I want centuries with you, not just decades." Liara's eyes widened. "Are you certain?" "It is not an easy process. It will take months and it will be painful." "I'm certain," Jake said firmly. "I love you. I want to build a life with you. A real life, not just a brief moment." Tears gathered in Liara's violet eyes. "Then we will begin as soon as you are ready." The treatment took 6 months. Jake had been warned it would be hard, but the reality was worse than he imagined. His body had to be slowly changed at the cellular level. There were days when the pain was so bad he couldn't get out of bed. Days when he wondered if he would survive. But Liara was with him through all of it. She held his hand during the worst moments. She read to him when he couldn't sleep. She never wavered, never doubted. Torin and the medical team worked tirelessly to make sure the treatment was successful. They adjusted dosages and monitored every change in Jake's body. They were determined that the first human to undergo this treatment would survive. Slowly, Jake began to change. His body grew stronger. His healing accelerated. He could feel himself becoming something more than he had been, while still remaining fundamentally Jake. When the treatment was finally complete, Jake stood in front of a mirror and barely recognized himself. He looked the same, but there was something different in his eyes. A depth that hadn't been there before. The knowledge that he now had centuries ahead of him instead of decades.
How do you feel?
Liara asked, coming to stand beside him. Different, Jake admitted. But good, strong. He took her hand. Like I can finally keep up with you. Liara laughed, a sound of pure joy. You could always keep up with me, Jake Morrison. This just means you can do it for longer. 5 years after Jake came to Silveris, the first mobile medical unit launched. It was staffed by both human and Ashirian doctors, equipped with the best technology from both civilizations. Its mission was to travel to frontier colonies and provide free medical care. Jake stood on the launch platform with Liara beside him. Below them, crowds of both species had gathered to watch. The medical program had become a symbol of cooperation between humans and Ashirians, a proof that different peoples could work together for the greater good. 15 ships will launch this year, Torrin said, reading from a report. With more planned for next year. We have over 1,000 volunteers waiting to join the program. He looked at Jake with respect. This was your vision. You should be proud. It's our vision now, Jake corrected. All of us working together. The ships launched in a blaze of light, carrying hope to distant worlds. Jake watched them go and felt a sense of peace he had never known before. That evening, Jake and Liara stood on the same balcony where Jake had first doubted his place in this world. But everything was different now. He wasn't an outsider anymore. He had found his purpose. He had found his place. Do you ever regret it? Liara asked quietly. Giving up your old life? Your humanity. I didn't give up my humanity, Jake said. I brought it with me. Everything I learned, everything I experienced as a human, that's still part of me. It always will be. He pulled her close. I just get to share it with more people now. For a lot longer. Liara rested her head on his shoulder. I used to think I understood love. I had lived for centuries, known thousands of people, but I did not truly understand until that night in the cave. She looked up at him. You taught me that sometimes the most important thing is not how long you have lived, but what you do with the life you have. And you taught me that running from fear is never the answer, Jake said. That taking a chance on something impossible is worth it. They stood together as the sun set over Silveris, painting the crystal city in shades of gold and pink. In the gardens below, human and Ashirian children played together. In the hospitals, doctors from both species worked side by side. In the space beyond the planet, medical ships traveled to bring hope to those who needed it most. Jake Morrison had started as a simple medic from a farm on Earth. A man who saved one life in a cave and never imagined it would lead to this. To love, to purpose, to becoming a bridge between two civilizations. He had saved the alien queen's life, shared a night that changed everything and disappeared into the dark. 5 years later, she had found him again, and together they had built something beautiful, and this was only the beginning. They had centuries ahead of them now, centuries to help people, to explore the stars, to love each other. The impossible had become possible. The bridge between worlds had become a road to the future. Jake took Liara's hand and squeezed it gently. She squeezed back. No words were needed. They had found each other across the vast distance of space and circumstance. They had overcome fear and doubt and the expectations of others. And now together they would change the galaxy. One life at a time. One world at a time. One moment of compassion at a time. Because that was what humans did best. They cared. They adapted. They built bridges instead of walls. And when given the chance, they showed the universe what it meant to be truly alive. The stars shone down on Silveris. Somewhere out there, a medical ship was arriving at a colony that desperately needed help. Somewhere, a life was being saved by the program Jake had built. Somewhere, the impossible was becoming real. Jake smiled. He had come a long way from that cave on Vistara Prime. But in some ways, he was still the same person. Still the medic who couldn't walk past someone in need. Still the man who believed one person could make a difference. He just had a longer time to prove it now. Ready for the next adventure? Liara asked, smiling up at him. Always, Jake said. As long as you're with me. They turned from the balcony and walked back into the palace together. Two beings from different worlds now united. Two lives that had touched briefly and changed forever. Two hearts beating as one. The universe was vast and full of wonders. But the greatest wonder of all was this: that love could bridge any distance, overcome any obstacle, and transform the impossible into something real and lasting and beautiful. Jake Morrison and Queen Liara had found that truth, and they would spend their centuries together proving it to the rest of the galaxy.